Beneath every step we take, beneath every mountain range, beneath every ocean floor and shifting tectonic plate, there lies a secret. A secret not silent, yet unheard. Not still, yet unseen. The Earth, this beautiful sphere suspended in space, has a heart, a hidden one. Not made of flesh, nor filled with blood, but of metal and fire. It is the core. The molten, magnetic, unyielding core. No eye has seen it. No drill has reached it. Yet everything we know is shaped by its unseen rhythm. As we drift gently into this meditative descent, imagine peeling back the layers of Earth like a soft fruit, each layer deeper, darker, and older than the last. The crust is the thinnest, a fragile shell only a few dozen kilometers thick. It holds forests, oceans, cities, and snow. But it is merely the skin. Beneath that, the mantle, a place of slow convulsions, where rock flows like honey over ages, driven by the warmth rising from below. It is here that continents are nudged like boats on slow currents. Volcanoes are whispered into existence. But even the mantle is not the deepest layer. Continue downward, and you reach the outer core. A vast sea, not of water, but of molten metal. Iron and nickel, in a ceaseless dance of convection, swirl, and churn like planetary breath. This fluid motion gives birth to the magnetic field, a shield that cloaks the Earth in protection, deflecting cosmic rays and solar storms, silently safeguarding life. Deeper still, at the very center of the Earth, half the radius of the Moon, rests the inner core. A solid sphere of iron alloy, spinning not with, but slightly faster than, the rest of the planet. A secret within a secret. Its surface is hotter than the surface of the Sun, and yet it remains solid due to the crushing pressure, millions of times greater than what we feel at sea level. This is the heart of the Earth. But what does it mean for a planet to have a heart? Not in the biological sense, but in the symbolic, the elemental, the cosmic. The core is not simply a geophysical engine. It is the source of vitality for the entire world above it. Without it, the magnetic field would fail. Without that field, the atmosphere would erode. Without atmosphere, oceans would vanish, and life would have never begun, or, if it had, it would have never survived. The core is the original keeper of warmth, not merely from radioactive decay or residual heat from formation, but from something older, much older. Some scientists believe the iron at the heart of Earth was formed in the last breath of dying stars, in supernovae that scattered the building blocks of planets across the cosmos. The iron in your blood, the iron in the core, may come from the same stellar origin. We are bonded to the core, not just physically, but elementally. It is a reminder that we are born of stars, carried by rock, and sustained by fire. And yet, it is so easy to forget this. We live on the crust, our lives measured by weather, light, and gravity. The world beneath us is abstract, distant. We may picture the Earth as a globe in a classroom or a map on a phone, but rarely do we feel its depth. This section is not meant to frighten or to overwhelm, but to slow our breath and deepen our attention. To remind us that even when we are still, something ancient continues to turn beneath us. A slow revolution in the dark, a pulsing liquid rhythm, a glowing sphere of iron, 6,000 kilometers below your feet. And so, as you rest, perhaps lying down now, the weight of your body gently sinking into mattress or earth, consider this. You are not alone in your stillness. The Earth too has a center, a heartbeat, a motion that has never paused in 4.5 billion years. And yet, we wonder, what would it mean if it did? What happens when the Earth's core sleeps? This question is not one of science alone, but of imagination, of speculation, of dreams. The journey ahead is not a lecture, but a lullaby of thought. We will drift through layers of rock and time, through magnetism and memory, through silence and fire. We will listen to the whispering of Earth's deep history and ask, what happens when its engine begins to quiet? Not to fear, but to listen. Not to predict, but to feel. Let the journey begin. Let us linger now, just above the core, in a place not made of fire, but of ancient stone. Solid, shifting, slow. This is the mantle, not the surface of the Earth, not the center, but the vast in-between, a realm of pressure and patience. It extends from about 30 kilometers beneath your feet to almost 3,000 kilometers below. It is the body of the earth, the deep muscle beneath the skin, surrounding the core like a warm cocoon of stone. But this stone is not dead. It breathes in ways the human eye cannot see. Over millennia, it flows. Not like rivers, not like air, but like a glacier dreaming. It moves by centimeters each year. Yet that movement builds continents, tears oceans apart, shifts mountains into place like slow, silent origami. This is the slowest poetry imaginable, the choreography of continents. And it is powered by heat. Heat that rises, silently, invisibly, from the molten heart of the earth. Without the core, the mantle would begin to still. And with that stillness, the surface would begin to forget how to move. The world we know today, restless, erupting, vibrating, is only possible because of the warmth that stirs the stone. Continents are not fixed. They drift. They wander. They have danced across the globe for hundreds of millions of years, crashing, parting, merging again. Africa once embraced South America. India once nestled beside Antarctica. The Himalayas, born from a collision. Iceland, a volcanic whisper from the mantle's fire. And all of it, every tremor, every peak, began in the quiet stirring of solid rock. Let us pause here and consider the memory of stone. Rock does not forget. It remembers heat. It remembers pressure. It carries in its minerals the fingerprints of ancient oceans and vanished atmospheres. In the folds of metamorphic layers, we find the stories of long-extinct worlds. And in the mantle, those stories continue to churn. But what if they didn't? What happens to a planet whose memory no longer stirs? Imagine a mantle that has gone cold, a deep freeze that stiffens the inner body of Earth. No more convecting currents. No more tectonic drift. No more new crust being born at mid-ocean ridges or consumed at subduction zones. Without the heat from below, Earth would become geologically still. No new volcanoes. No new earthquakes. No new continents slowly rearranging themselves. Just silence. Stillness. The world holding its last pose. Some call this tectonic death, a stage in the aging of rocky planets. Mars, perhaps, is already there. Its crust is thick and unbroken. Its volcanoes long silent. Its mantle likely too cool to move. A quiet world. A world that once may have stirred, but now only dreams of motion. Is that what waits for Earth? One day, far beyond our span of years. Perhaps, but not yet. For now, the mantle still remembers. Still heaves and hums with warmth passed up from the core. Still lifts islands from the sea. Still makes mountains exhale into the sky. Still shapes the stage on which all life performs. Even as we sleep tonight, the plates beneath us shift by millimeters. Even in stillness, the world continues its slow dance. And yet, as we drift further into this thoughtscape, we hold the question gently, like a fragile stone. What if that motion faded? What would a quiet Earth feel like? Not catastrophic, not exploding, just falling into a deeper stillness. Not a death, but a rest. A return to geologic sleep. The planet folding in on itself, curling around a core grown cold. No tremors. No volcanoes. Only long horizons and long silences. There is a strange peace in that image. A still world beneath a quiet sky. And so, the mantle becomes more than rock. It becomes metaphor. For memory. For movement. For warmth carried forward. It reminds us that even things that appear solid, immovable, are, in their own way, alive with time. It teaches us that motion does not need to be fast to be meaningful, that the slowest breath can still shape worlds, and that silence, when it comes, is not always an absence. Sometimes, it is the final shape of memory. Let us drift onward. The air feels still, but something stirs. Not wind, not sound, something deeper, something older than the oceans. An invisible rhythm moving through the sky and stone. It is the breath of the Earth's core, reaching out in silence, wrapping the planet in a field of unseen grace. This is Earth's magnetic field, a vast, protective veil born from the motion of molten metal deep within. And though we cannot see it, though we do not touch it with our hands, it touches everything. It is always with us, holding space around the world like a quiet guardian. The magnetic field begins where the molten outer core begins to move. Rivers of iron and nickel swirl and spiral, generating electric currents. And from those currents emerges the field, a living, moving bubble of magnetism, stretching tens of thousands of kilometers into space, protecting the Earth from solar winds, those streams of charged particles racing from the sun like cosmic breath. Without this field, the atmosphere itself could have been stripped away, molecule by molecule. We owe our skies to a sea of metal we have never seen. We owe our breath to an invisible windbreaker against the stars. Pause with this for a moment. Above your head, beyond the clouds, beyond the ionosphere, is a field that bends radiation, that deflects invisible arrows from space, that ensures oceans remain oceans, and that lungs have air to fill. All of it, born in the dark. All of it, dependent on a restless core. And should the core begin to sleep, that field may begin to fade. We know this not from prophecy, but from rocks. The Earth's crust is a library of ancient magnetism. As lava cools, minerals like magnetite align themselves to the planet's magnetic field, locking in its direction and strength at the moment of solidification. These frozen compasses remain in place for millions of years, giving geologists a map of the past, a chronicle of every shift and reversal. Yes, reversals. The Earth's magnetic field flips. North becomes south, and south becomes north, not in a day or a year, but gradually over thousands of years. The field weakens, then reorganizes, a dance of polarity that has happened many times in Earth's past. Some animals sense this shift. Birds migrate by magnetic compass, as do turtles, whales, and bees. They feel the pull of the poles, not just directionally, but instinctively, as if it were part of their body's song. If the core sleeps, if the field falters, this silent guidance would fall away. Skies would shimmer with more radiation. Auroras would blaze lower, but not from beauty alone. Satellites would glitch. Radio waves might falter. And migration patterns, passed down across generations, could unravel in confusion. But the magnetic field is not just functional. It is memory. It is story. It is the Earth's long hum reaching into space and time. It is evidence that our planet is not cold and still, but alive within. Even on other worlds, we look for fields. Mars had one, long ago. But as its core cooled, the magnetosphere vanished. And with it, so too went much of its atmosphere. It became vulnerable, exposed to solar breath. And over time, stripped bare. Could this be Earth's future? Perhaps. But not now. Now, the field still breathes. It wavers, yes. It pulses and shifts. But it is here. And in its presence, we are held. Think of it. This thing that does not ask for thanks. This thing that does not glow or speak, yet guides the animals, protects the planet, and sings through rocks with a song older than words. Tonight, as you close your eyes, as you sink into stillness, know that above you, far above, you are wrapped in an invisible geometry. Field lines curve like soft threads, an unseen web between earth and sky, gently flexing, always watching, all of it a gift from the core, from motion, from heat, from a heart that has never stopped turning. But what if that motion slowed? What if the field grew faint? Not at once, but like the final exhale before a long sleep. Not with catastrophe, but with silence. Would we notice? Would birds lose their way in the sky? Would rocks stop recording? Would we, in some subtle way, feel unmoored, no longer tethered to the hum beneath our feet? This is not to fear, only to wonder, to honor what is, to remember what sustains us without asking to be seen. A breath beneath the breath, a field born of fire, a memory written in metal and time. And so, we turn the page. Imagine waking one morning to find your compass has forgotten where north is. You tap it, shake it, hold it flat, but the needle drifts in lazy spirals, uncertain, confused, as if the earth itself no longer remembers which way it's facing. The day the compass died did not begin with a crash. It began in silence. For weeks, months, even years, scientists had spoken in soft concern, the magnetic field weakening, wobbling, changing more rapidly than expected. Not vanishing, no, but dimming. And then, one day, the drift was too great. Navigation systems faltered. Satellites blinked erratically. And somewhere, a migratory bird changed course and flew into the unfamiliar. Not because the sky betrayed it, but because the song it once followed, Earth's magnetic whisper, had grown too quiet to hear. This is not catastrophe. This is forgetting. A planet slowly losing its sense of direction. And yet, What is direction? We too follow invisible lines, maps, coordinates, dreams of what lies ahead. Even when we are still, we orient ourselves by magnetic truths. A compass is more than an instrument. It is a symbol of purpose, of stability, of certainty in motion. So when that symbol dies, something within us flickers. Not panic, but pause. Because even if GPS fails, even if flight paths need rewriting, we will adapt. We always do. But the Earth does not adapt. It simply changes. As the dynamo deep in the outer core slows, so too does the strength of the field it breathes into space. No longer the vibrant shield of old, but a thinning veil, letting in just a little more light, a little more radiation, a little more silence. In such a world, auroras grow bolder at first. You might look up one night and see the skies above your home glowing in green fire. Not at the poles, but at the equator. A curtain of cosmic color, radiant and surreal. People will call it beautiful, and it is. But beauty, too, can come with cost. Charged particles, once deflected, now touch the upper atmosphere. They dance through circuits and satellites. Power grids hiccup. Aircraft reroute. Technology listens more carefully, or it burns. And beneath all this, life adjusts. Some animals will continue, confused but persistent. Others, those who map the Earth magnetically, may dwindle. Whales beach themselves. Bees lose their hive scent. Sea turtles, returning to ancestral shores, arrive at strange sands. It is not that they are lost. It is that the world no longer sings the song they remember. And what of us? What of the quiet systems we take for granted, communications, timing signals, orientation, satellites, all calibrated to a field now shifting? What of the pilots, the navigators, the submarines? What of the delicate instruments used to measure space and time? Slowly, gently, they must all relearn. Find new ways to know where they are. It will not be an end, just an unraveling of an old agreement. The Earth says, I no longer spin the same song. And we must listen. But deeper still than the machines is the metaphor. Because when the Earth forgets north, we too begin to question our sense of center. Not just how to travel, but how to be. How do we orient when the sky changes its tune? How do we measure movement when the landmarks shift? And if even the core of the Earth can grow tired, can slow, can drift, what does that say of permanence? Of certainty? It is a humbling thought, to know that nothing is fixed, that even the deepest parts of the planet are in motion, or could one day pause. And yet, within that thought, there is not only sorrow. There is spaciousness. There is wonder. Because in the pause, we begin to notice more. In the absence of the compass, we look up. We listen to the stars. We turn to ancient ways, to moss on bark, to wind in trees, to the feeling in the bones that says, go this way. We are reminded that navigation is not only magnetic. It is intuitive, emotional, sometimes even poetic. And perhaps, when the core sleeps, we awaken to a different kind of direction, not toward poles or grids, but toward presence, not toward destination, but toward attention. So let the compass drift for now. Let it spin gently in its bowl of glass. A reminder that even the most dependable things can one day rest. And that sometimes, even the Earth must forget its way before it finds a new one. At the center of the Earth lies a fire that never burns us, a flame we never see, hotter than the surface of the sun, and yet utterly unreachable. The inner core. It is both myth and matter, real and remote. A place of extremes, searing heat, crushing pressure, and complete isolation. There is no light there, no air, no sound, and yet it burns, or at least it glows. But here is the paradox. It is solid. The hottest place on Earth is frozen. How can this be? Because pressure changes everything. At the heart of the planet, the iron is compressed by the weight of the world, millions of atmospheres bearing down from every direction. And under such pressure, even fire forgets how to move. Even molten metal remembers how to be still. The outer core spins, churns, and breathes motion into the magnetic field. But the inner core? It is fixed, solid iron, a frozen flame. And yet, it is not entirely still. It grows, slowly, quietly. Every century, a few millimeters of liquid iron from the outer core crystallize and join the inner sphere. A frozen ring around a frozen heart. A process of becoming. This solidification releases heat back into the outer core, fueling its motion, sustaining the dynamo. The inner core feeds the outer one. Stillness gives birth to motion, a paradox wrapped in metal and time. But what happens when that growth stops? When the inner core has fully crystallized, no more liquid to freeze, no more heat to shed, no more energy to give. The outer core, robbed of its warmth, might begin to still. The magnetic field might weaken, then fall. And the planet's shield, its auroral breath, might fade into silence. Not suddenly, not dramatically, but like embers cooling after a long fire. A slow hush settling over a world. The frozen flame no longer feeds the winds of magnetism, and Earth begins to rest. But there is something more, something poetic in this ending. Because even as the flame dies, it leaves a story behind. Heat has memory. Just as rocks remember magnetism, the core remembers fire. We see it in seismic waves, in the way they travel faster through some regions of the core than others, suggesting that even within the solid, there is history. There are patterns, textures, a kind of structure, perhaps even an ancient rhythm etched into the iron. It is as though the planet, in its deepest sleep, still dreams of motion. And what is sleep if not a transformation of energy? Even in rest, the inner core may shift slightly, rotating at a slightly different pace than the planet around it. Out of sync, yet still joined. Like a memory turning slowly in the dark. The frozen flame is not lifeless. It is a symbol of endurance, of paradox, of how something can be both hot and still, both burning and silent. It invites us to consider, what else in the universe lives in such contradiction? A black hole, endlessly consuming, yet invisible. A star, burning outward, yet held together by gravity. Or the human heart, so full of fire and yet so easily broken by stillness. Perhaps the core of the earth is more than iron. Perhaps it is a mirror. And as we gaze into it, we see ourselves, full of motion and memory, heat and heaviness, fragile and eternal, all at once. If the core sleeps, what do we carry forward? If the flame forgets, who becomes the keeper of the fire? The answer may not lie in machines, or fields, or facts. It may lie in this moment, in the breath you take right now, in the warmth of your body as you rest, in the knowledge that you are part of a living planet whose deepest flame once burned for you, and still, in some way, does, even as it cools, even as it pauses, even as the frozen flame forgets how to move. It leaves behind a memory, quiet and glowing, deep within the dark, deep beneath your feet, beneath the oceans and crust, beneath the continents and mantle. There is an engine, not made by human hands, not forged in factories or designed by blueprints, but older, vaster, and immeasurably more patient. It hums an iron. It breathes in convection. It spins, slowly, tirelessly, like a heart, like a thought, like a dream the earth keeps dreaming. We call it the geodynamo. The sleeping engine at the center of the earth is not a machine in the way we know machines. It has no pistons, no gears, no wires. Its components are temperature, pressure, and time. It runs on gradients, on the subtle difference between hot and hotter, dense and denser, liquid and solid. The outer core, made of molten iron and nickel, churns and moves. These flows generate electric currents. And those currents create magnetic fields, loops and lines, twists and arcs, an invisible armor encasing the planet. This field reaches far beyond the surface, past the clouds, past the sky, shielding the earth from solar winds and cosmic radiation. It is the silent guardian, the aurora's painter, the navigator's needle. But what happens when this engine begins to sleep? When the temperature differences shrink, when the iron stops flowing, when convection ceases, what remains? Without flow, there are no currents. Without currents, no field. Without a field, Earth is exposed. It would not happen all at once. Like a great clock winding down, it would slow imperceptibly, a pause between ticks, a hesitation in the gears of time. The magnetic field would fluctuate, waver, weaken. Auroras would dim. The compass would falter. And the shield that has protected Earth for billions of years would begin to thin. Solar winds, once sculpted into shimmering veils of light, might strike the atmosphere more directly. The ozone could fray. Satellites, once safe in their orbits, would face increasing storms of charged particles. And life on the surface? It would notice, slowly, in subtle shifts, in patterns unseen, except to those who watch for them. Migration paths might lose their compass. Navigation systems would need new tools. The whisper of Earth's magnetic lullaby would grow faint. But deeper down, something quieter would unfold. The heat would settle. The outer core would lose its flow. The boundary between solid and liquid would blur. And the Earth's internal voice, its dynamic pulse, would fall silent. Not death, but dormancy. The sleeping engine is not destroyed. It is resting. For in the universe, nothing is truly lost, only transformed. Energy does not vanish, it redistributes. The heat that once rose may seep sideways. The currents that once spun may drift into stillness. A planet in pause. But there is beauty in this imagined quiet. For the first time in billions of years, Earth would rest. Its magnetic storms, its churning core, all gone quiet. The mantle, long shaped by heat from below, would find a new rhythm. Volcanoes might fade. Tectonic plates could still, locked into a final arrangement. And on the surface, life would adjust. As it always has. As it always will. Because even when the engine sleeps, the Earth remains a body. A form. A memory. The layers of crust hold records of all that came before. Fossilized lightning and rock, remnants of magnetic reversals, the breath of an ancient field frozen in stone. Like tree rings. Like echoes. And perhaps, just perhaps, the Earth dreams as it sleeps, remembering its motion, its heat, its field. Not with thought, but with structure. With shape. With gravity. In silence, it remembers. In stillness, it waits. And though the engine sleeps, its memory hums softly in the lattice of iron, in the curvature of mountains, in the orbit of the moon. For even stillness has a sound, if one listens closely. For billions of years, the Earth has worn a cloak of magnetism, invisible yet present, gentle yet powerful. This field, our geodynamo's breath, has wrapped us in protection, cradled us through solar storms, and offered a soft resistance to the chaos of the cosmos. It is the Earth's unseen aura, the soft light that sings at the poles, the guide that whispers to whales, to birds, to drifting clouds of electrons. A field that flows through stone and sky, binding life to the planet in silent companionship. But what if that breath begins to fade? What if the cloak slips from our shoulders, thread by thread, pulse by pulse? Imagine a world where compasses spin aimlessly, where north is no longer a place, but a drifting echo. Imagine birds rising into morning skies, their instincts searching for a north star that no longer exists. Imagine turtles returning to the ocean, carrying an ancient map etched in their bodies, but finding that the landmarks have vanished. Without the field, Earth becomes exposed, not just to radiation, but to uncertainty. The poles may wander. They already do. Every few 100,000 years, they reverse. North becomes south, and south, north. In those times, the field weakens. Sometimes almost disappears. But always, so far, it has returned. What if one day it does not? What if, instead of reversing, it vanishes entirely? No more magnetic shield to guide auroras into brilliant bloom. No more geomagnetic lullabies to anchor the biosphere. Satellites, unguarded, would blink and fail. Charged particles would sweep down into the upper atmosphere. The sky itself might shimmer with unfamiliar lights, not beautiful, but haunting. The sun, still burning, would reach further than ever before. And life has always been resilient. But its relationship with the magnetic field is not fully understood. Could its disappearance shift patterns of sleep, of navigation, of cognition? Could our bones, subtly magnetic, feel the absence in ways we cannot name? Perhaps we would grow anxious, adrift, not knowing why we feel unmoored, as though something ancient and protective had quietly let go. For humans have always been drawn to direction, to order, to orientation, to know where we stand. We have looked to the stars, to the sun, and to the needle of the compass. Remove the field, and we lose more than navigation. We lose a sense of place. We lose the whisper in our cells that told us the planet was still alive, still turning, still holding us. There would be no sound, no flash, no singular moment, just a slow, spectral unraveling. A breath that once filled the skies, growing fainter, fainter, until it is no longer felt. The auroras would disappear last, perhaps, like candles flickering out in the upper night, like prayers rising from the poles, unanswered. And when they are gone, the silence will be magnetic in a different way, a gravity not of iron, but of absence. Yet, in this silence, there will still be memory. Rocks will remember. In cooled lava flows, iron particles lock into alignment, preserving the direction of the magnetic field at the time of their formation. These are the fossils of magnetism, tiny crystalline compasses still pointing, even when the sky forgets. Long after the last pulse fades, these rocks will carry the history of a field that once danced from pole to pole. Perhaps future beings, if any remain, will read these mineral memories like we read the stars. Perhaps they will say, "There was once a force here, a breath beneath the surface that kept the fire of life from being blown out." And perhaps, like us, they will wonder what it felt like to live in the embrace of that field, to dream under auroras, to feel the earth hum softly beneath the soles of your feet. And perhaps they too will grieve, not with tears, but with silence, with reverence, with questions. For when magnetism exhales its final breath, something sacred leaves the room. Not just a shield, but a presence. The planet will still turn. The tides will still rise. But the cloak will be gone. The field will sleep. And in that sleep, a memory of what once was will echo through the rocks, through the quiet sky, through the hearts of those still listening. There was a time when fire poured from stone, when the earth spoke in rivers of lava, and its breath shimmered in plumes of ash rising toward the sky. Volcanoes are not just destruction. They are beginnings. From their fury, new land emerges. From their depths, minerals are lifted to the surface, the hidden wealth of the planet, shared with the sky above. A volcano is a wound, yes, but also a seed. It nourishes the land it burns. It fertilizes the future through fire. These eruptions, violent, beautiful, and profoundly ancient, are the Earth's way of releasing the pressure from within. Heat builds, rock melts, and the surface is torn open, not to end, but to become. Each eruption is a heartbeat. Each caldera a breath that tells us, "I am alive beneath you." But what if that breath slows? What if the furnace dims so far that the magma no longer stirs? No pressure, no molten surge, no voice from the deep, just stillness. The volcanoes fall silent. One by one, island chains stop growing. Seafloors no longer split. No new mountains erupt from the oceans. The crust, now unpunctured, settles into quiet. Dormant cones, once fierce, become fossils. They are still tall, still jagged, but they are no longer rising. They no longer dream of eruption. Even the supervolcanoes, those slumbering giants who once whispered threats across epochs, now rest permanently. Their chambers cool. Their magma solidifies. Their heat, once an unstoppable force, becomes memory. The earth no longer shouts. For millennia, volcanoes shaped continents and dictated climates. They ended civilizations and nourished new ones. Ash fell like dark snow, but always followed by rebirth. Now, with silence, rebirth pauses. The soils enriched by ash will not be renewed. The nutrient cycles, once fed by eruptions, slow their loops. Islands, once created from fire, will erode without replacement. Landscapes, once remade with each explosion, will grow old and wear down. And still, no new fire comes. But this is not decay. It is transformation. For the absence of eruption is not empty. It is full of waiting, of reflection. A planet without volcanoes is not dead. It is listening. It is holding what once moved within it and whispering it into stone. You see, volcanoes also record their histories. Layer by layer, each flow of lava, each pyroclastic surge, becomes a page in the book of the earth. That book remains. Even as the pen dries, its chapters echo. Pompeii, Krakatoa, Tambora, Mount St. Helens, Age of Geological, all written in ash, remembered by rock. Without eruptions, the world feels quieter. There are no sudden dawns of red sky, no thunder from beneath the crust, no smoke that turns noon into twilight. And so we wonder, what becomes of Earth's voice? Perhaps it shifts. Perhaps the voice of the planet is no longer shouted through eruptions, but spoken in the slow, endless language of erosion, of wind against stone, of rain carving valleys over millions of years. There is music in that too. A softer song. Not percussion, but strings. Not fire, but breath. The silence of volcanoes invites listening. It draws our attention inward, to the memory of heat, to the quiet power of time. We begin to see that even silence is movement. That stillness, on planetary scales, has its own rhythm. A world without volcanic fire is not lesser, it is older. It is settling into the wisdom of age, where no more upheaval is needed. The continents move, but not with urgency. They slide like ancient ships on a molten sea, silent, relentless, pulled by the whisper of internal heat. They do not race. They do not charge. They drift a few centimeters a year, less than the pace of fingernails growing. Yet, this gentle motion reshapes the world. Pangea once formed from such drifting, and later broke apart, birthing new oceans, shaping coastlines, sculpting new possibilities for life. But beneath all this movement, there is a dance driven not by wind or tide, but by the heat rising from the deep. Convection currents churn the mantle, soft rocks cycling like thick soup on a slow boil. Hot material rises, cooler material sinks, an endless loop powered by the breath of the core. But what happens when that breath grows shallow? The core begins to sleep. Its furnace dims. The churn of the mantle slows to a crawl. And with it, the plates, those drifting continents, lose their wind. The oceans stop widening. The mountains stop rising. The ridges, like mid-oceanic stitches, fuse shut. No new crust is born. The boundaries blur. Subduction falters. The places where one plate slips beneath another grow still. Imagine Earth as a great clockwork, its gears turning slowly beneath our feet. Now those gears begin to grind to a halt. Not in a moment, not in a dramatic pause, but in a soft, drawn-out yawn lasting millions of years. Supercontinents may still form, slowly and awkwardly, as plates lumber into each other's arms. But there is no bounce back, no new cycle, no fresh separation. The dance of drift becomes a final embrace. A supercontinent might stretch across the face of the planet, vast, hot, and arid. With no active tectonics to renew the crust, the land weathers. It crumbles under wind and rain. Mountains flatten, sediments pile, but no new stone is pushed upward to replace it. Over eons, the earth smooths. The ocean floor, once a site of constant birth, hardens. The mantle, now too cool to churn, stiffens into stillness. The crust, once divided, fuses. The world becomes one vast plate, silent and unmoving. This is not extinction, but suspension. The dynamic Earth becomes a fossil of itself. It has grown old in a way only planets can. Other worlds in our solar system show us glimpses of this fate. Mars, its heart long cooled, wears ancient scars with no new wounds. Venus, though volcanic once, no longer whispers change beneath its clouded veil. Even our moon, once molten, is now stone upon stone, a world where silence has weight. In time, Earth may resemble them, not in color, or sky, or sea, but in rhythm, or rather, the lack of it. Still, there is a strange beauty in this slow surrender. For tectonics has always been a background song, one we do not hear, but which cradles every step we take. Its fading is not a single silence, but the quieting of a cosmic lullaby. A song played on molten rock, measured in collisions, written in ridges. As it ends, the planet's skin settles into stillness. Its past movements fossilize in the layered memory of stone. Each wrinkle in a mountain range, each rift in the seabed, becomes a frozen verse. The Earth stops moving, but it does not forget. It holds the memory of drift, the pull of continents, the violence of subduction, the blossoming of land. And perhaps that memory is enough. For there is peace in becoming a record. A world without tectonics is not a dead world, only a resting one. A keeper of its own stories, no longer rewriting, but rereading. Plate tectonics may fade, but its legacy, the continents we walk, the mountains we admire, the islands that dot our oceans, remains. The Earth becomes not less meaningful, but quieter. A library shelving its last new book. A melody playing its final note. Not in sadness, but in completion. There was a time when fire poured from stone, when the Earth spoke in rivers of lava, and its breath shimmered in plumes of ash rising toward the sky. Volcanoes are not just destruction. They are beginnings. From their fury, new land emerges. From their depths, minerals are lifted to the surface, the hidden wealth of the planet, shared with the sky above. A volcano is a wound, yes, but also a seed. It nourishes the land it burns. It fertilizes the future through fire. These eruptions, violent, beautiful, and profoundly ancient, are the Earth's way of releasing the pressure from within. Heat builds, rock melts, and the surface is torn open, not to end, but to become. Each eruption is a heartbeat, each caldera a breath that tells us, I am alive beneath you. But what if that breath slows? What if the furnace dims so far that the magma no longer stirs? No pressure, no molten surge, no voice from the deep, just stillness. The volcanoes fall silent. One by one, island chains stop growing. Seafloors no longer split. No new mountains erupt from the oceans. The crust, now unpunctured, settles into quiet. Dormant cones, once fierce, become fossils. They are still tall, still jagged, but they are no longer rising. They no longer dream of eruption. Even the supervolcanoes, those slumbering giants who once whispered threats across epochs, now rest permanently. Their chambers cool. Their magma solidifies. Their heat, once an unstoppable force, becomes memory. The Earth no longer shouts. For millennia, volcanoes shaped continents and dictated climates. They ended civilizations and nourished new ones. Ash fell like dark snow, but always followed by rebirth. Now, with silence, rebirth pauses. The soils enriched by ash will not be renewed. The nutrient cycles, once fed by eruptions, slow their loops. Islands, once created from fire, will erode without replacement. Landscapes, once remade with each explosion, will grow old and wear down. And still, no new fire comes. But this is not decay. It is transformation. For the absence of eruption is not empty. It is full of waiting, of reflection. A planet without volcanoes is not dead, it is listening. It is holding what once moved within it and whispering it into stone. You see, volcanoes also record their histories. Layer by layer, each flow of lava, each pyroclastic surge, becomes a page in the book of the Earth. That book remains. Even as the pen dries, its chapters echo. Pompeii, Krakatoa, Tambora, Mount St. Helens, Age of Geological, all written in ash, remembered by rock. Without eruptions, the world feels quieter. There are no sudden dawns of red sky, no thunder from beneath the crust, no smoke that turns noon into twilight. And so we wonder, what becomes of Earth's voice? Perhaps it shifts. Perhaps the voice of the planet is no longer shouted through eruptions, but spoken in the slow, endless language of erosion, of wind against stone, of rain carving valleys over millions of years. There is music in that too, a softer song, not percussion, but strings, not fire, but breath. The silence of volcanoes invites listening. It draws our attention inward, to the memory of heat, to the quiet power of time. We begin to see that even silence is movement. That stillness, on planetary scales, has its own rhythm. A world without volcanic fire is not lesser, it is older. It is settling into the wisdom of age, where no more upheaval is needed. The fire is not gone. It has been stored, not in magma, but in memory, not in destruction, but in the echo of all that once was born through flame. The Earth, now quiet, becomes a lantern of stories. And the volcanoes, those great storytellers, have passed the torch to the wind. The Earth once pulsed, not like a heart, but like a vast, slow breath taken over eons. With each tectonic shift, with every upwelling of magma, with every crack and grind beneath the crust, the planet exhaled its deep rhythm. This was not chaos. This was not noise. It was pattern. It was life. It was motion, layered like music beneath the silence of the stars. But now the rhythm quiets. The great tectonic plates that once drifted, collided, and folded mountains into the sky now pause. They become fixed, locked, settled. The magnetic field, born of the churning outer core, spinning iron in a dance of electrons, dwindles. Its shield weakens. Solar wind begins to seep through, unchallenged, into the upper atmosphere. The planet no longer hums. Seismometers, once alive with motion, fall still. Satellites detect no fluctuation, no shifts. No rumble from below. A planet without a pulse. What does that mean? To us, a pulse is life. A sign that something moves within. That something is being carried. Oxygen, thought, intention. It is the difference between sleep and death, between silence and song. So, when the planet's pulse fades, we mourn. We imagine Earth as a body gone cold, its heat dissipated, its breath stilled. And yet, is all stillness an ending? Or is it transformation? The crust, once fractured by movement, becomes whole. No new wounds. No new scars. Just the long healing of an ancient skin. Without tectonics, there are no quakes. No cities swallowed. No trenches deepening. No continents reshaped. Deserts remain deserts. Oceans remain in their basins. Mountains slowly wear down under the gentle teeth of time. It is a kind of peace. The magnetic field, once dynamic and chaotic, becomes memory. The auroras fade. But so do the tempests of charged particles. The sky becomes still, like a lake at dusk. No longer a battlefield, but a mirror. We begin to ask not what is lost, but what is found in this quiet. Without a pulse, the earth becomes a keeper of form. Its mountains, no longer reshaped, become statues of geology. Its rivers, no longer redirected, etch their final lines in the map. The atmosphere, now more exposed, becomes thinner over time. A fading breath, lighter winds, longer stillness. The biosphere, if life remains, must adapt to quiet, to cold, to the absence of planetary fire. But perhaps something else awakens. Not a biological presence, but a geological awareness. A deep memory settling into still stone. Each rock becomes a record, each canyon a signature, each fossil a letter in the language of a world that once pulsed. Perhaps the planet, though no longer active, has become wise. Still, yes, but not empty. Like a tree that has grown too old to flower, yet offers shelter in its limbs. Like a bell that has rung its last tone, yet vibrates faintly in memory. Without a pulse, Earth joins a quiet fraternity of sleeping worlds. Mars, with its lost dynamo and frozen core. Venus, still hot, but long without tectonics. The moon, silent and sealed, its volcanic whispers long gone. Earth joins them, but not in defeat. In reflection, in stillness. It becomes a poem written in basalt, a lullaby hummed in the language of cooling metal, a monument to time's softest touch. No longer erupting. No longer shifting, but holding everything that came before, holding oceans that once crashed, forests that once grew, voices that once spoke, species that once sang, all within its cooled interior. Not forgotten, just remembered. The pulse may have faded, but the heart of the earth has not vanished. It has become stone, and stone, as we have long known, endures. And so we listen, not for the beat, but for the echo. We press our palms to the surface and feel nothing. But somewhere deep beneath the silence, there is still warmth. Not enough to stir the core, but enough to tell us it was once alive. And maybe that is enough. There are forces we cannot see, but have always known. They do not sing, but they shield. They do not glow, but they protect. The magnetic field, our unseen veil, our planet's quiet guardian, was never loud. It simply was. A cocoon spun from spinning metal, from a liquid heart of iron and nickel, endlessly in motion. This was the heartbeat of the planet, translated into defense. A ripple of invisible lines arching from pole to pole, trapping charged particles, bending solar winds around us like a stream parting for a stone. And now it is gone. The Earth's dynamo has slowed. The outer core stills, its currents lost. No more spirals of heat and flow. No more magnetic whisper rising from within. Above, the shield collapses. Like an ancient tapestry unthreaded, the field unravels thread by thread until the fabric of protection vanishes. What remains is raw exposure. The sun, still radiant, still raging, casts out its flares, its storms of charged particles. Before, they danced at the poles. Now they arrive unchecked. Cosmic radiation, once turned away, reaches the atmosphere. And slowly, invisibly, it begins to peel away the planet's breath. The upper layers, ionosphere, thermosphere, start to thin. Atoms escape into the blackness. A slow exhale with no return. This is not a cataclysm. It is not an explosion. It is not loud. It is erosion, like the tide wearing down a shoreline. Like frost cracking ancient stone, time becomes the enemy and the artist. And yet, even here, life clings. In caverns deep beneath the crust, life once found refuge from radiation and ice. Now, perhaps it does again. Creatures burrow, plants adapt. DNA rewrites its code for a world with fewer shields and more silence. The surface grows quiet. No more sprawling forests under a blue sky. No more birds tracing magnetic paths across oceans. Instead, lichen on rocks, bacteria beneath stone. Life in retreat, but not in surrender. It remembers other ages, when oxygen was poison, when ice covered continents, when fire fell from the sky. It will remember this too. Above, auroras bloom across the sky in wild, unpredictable places. Not at the poles, for there are no poles now. Only storm light flickering where it pleases. They are beautiful and haunting, ghosts of a field that no longer holds. We watch the stars more clearly than before, because there is less air to obscure them. But we feel them more keenly too, because the veil is thin. We are not alone, but we are exposed. The earth becomes a planet of twilight. Not just in light, but in protection. Not just in memory, but in vulnerability. The sun still warms, but it scalds. The cosmos still shines, but it pierces. And yet, in this vulnerability, there is intimacy. We see the world as it is, uncloaked, unshielded, bare. We understand now what it meant to be held by a spinning core. We understand what it means to be unheld. And still, the planet turns. Slowly, quietly, breathing thinner air. Remembering a time when it pulsed and protected. And in that remembrance, it dreams. Perhaps not of rekindling the field. Perhaps not of movement or fire. But of being what it now is. A world exposed. A world at rest. A world without a shield, but not without beauty. For even in the fall of defenses, there is the rise of understanding. And the earth, though no longer guarded, is not forgotten. It is simply changed. There was always a pulse beneath us. Even when we slept, even when the stars spun in silence above, there was warmth rising. Geothermal heat, a silent tide emerging from within. It never announced itself, but it nourished. From volcanic vents to forested springs, from mountain roots to seafloor fissures, life had always reached downward as much as upward. But now, the pulse fades. No more magma tides. No more simmering breaths from beneath the crust. No more heat curling upward like incense from the earth's altar. The core has fallen still. The iron heart no longer churns. The mantle has cooled. The fractures, once radiant with energy, now rest in shadow. The warmth is gone. And yet, life lingers. In the darkest places beneath pressure and stone, it curls in upon itself. A microbe waits. A fungal thread stretches through rock like a blind painter feeling for the edge of a canvas. There is no light here. No heat. Only the memory of what once was. Still, the memory is enough. There are organisms who remember epochs before the atmosphere sang with oxygen, before sunlight ruled the rhythm of days. They recall a world of chemical whispers, where heat was currency and deep stone was home. These are the survivors. They do not grow tall. They do not bloom. They endure. In crevices, life becomes small, not diminished, but concentrated. A new quiet settles over the biosphere. The great forests are long gone. The oceans, no longer stirred by vents, grow still. Without thermal currents, nutrients drift downward and stay. The deep becomes a museum of fallen matter. But even in the museum, there are caretakers. Worms, microbes, bacteria, feeding on decay, building with fragments, creating in absence. They do not need sunlight. They do not need warmth. They need only the space to exist and the will to adapt. Above, cold deserts stretch across continents. Frost no longer melts. Rain no longer falls. But beneath the surface, an ecosystem breathes in glacial time. It is not extinction, not fully. It is a long exhale, a drawing inward like a creature curling in sleep. Life is not defeated by the loss of fire. It changes shape. Some species enter cryptobiosis, suspending themselves in time, resisting decay, awaiting a return that may never come. Others transform entirely, chemically restructured to thrive in stillness. The biosphere no longer surges. It whispers. Each breath of life is deliberate. Each reproduction is rare. This is not a flourishing world, but it is a persistent one. And there is beauty here, in restraint, in adaptation, in quiet endurance. We often equate life with light, with motion, with heat. But in the absence of all three, something remains. Not noise, but presence. Not growth, but resilience. Not abundance, but poetry. Life, even without warmth, finds a way to speak. Its voice is a soft tapping, a drift of molecules, a flicker of existence in the bones of the earth. And if you listen, truly listen, you may still hear it. Not in forests, not in birdsong, but in the rhythm of survival. This is a new kind of life. A life that remembers fire but does not require it. A life that sings in silence. A life at the edge of heat. There was a time when Earth spoke, in tremors, in fire, in molten tides and magnetic storms sweeping across the sky. It was never a quiet planet. Its breath was the shifting of continents, its language the growl of quakes beneath our feet, its sigh the burst of volcanoes rising through the sea. We lived atop this restless murmur. We built our stories upon its pulses. But now the voice is gone. The crust no longer bends. No plates grind in fury. No rift widens. No mountain rises. Tectonic breath has ceased. The inner core sleeps. The mantle rests. The planet is still. And in its stillness, a new silence arrives. This is not the silence of a room gone quiet, or a forest after snow. This is the silence of process abandoned, of movement unmade, of destiny paused. A planetary exhale that does not end. Continents drift no more. They have arrived wherever they were going. The oceans, once furrowed by subduction and uplift, no longer change their bowls. They reflect the stars like glass, undisturbed. The Earth's magnetic field has faded to a whisper. Solar winds strike the atmosphere without resistance. Auroras die. Charged particles rain down uncurved. There is no compass now, no poles to guide, no shield to hold back the invisible fire of the cosmos. And still, there is no cry, no alarm, only stillness. Perhaps this is how planets grow old, not in catastrophe, but in quiet. Not in one final eruption, but in the surrender of their once endless churning. And we, the listeners, must reckon with this change. We were born into noise, into volcanic breath, into magnetic lullabies that kept us safe in the dark. We were children of a restless earth. But now the lullabies have stopped. And in the silence, we feel something else. Not fear, not sorrow. Oh, for the first time, the earth has grown entirely still. Not dead, not broken, simply at rest. It is a silence earned through eons of movement, a silence that bears the weight of history. In this stillness, we can hear things that were lost in the roar. The soft memory of forests that once breathed, the echo of tides that danced to lunar gravity, the sigh of the planet as it settles. No more earthquakes. No more ruptures beneath the sea. No new land from fire. Only what is and what remains. Even the clouds seem to move slower. Even the wind seems to hesitate, as if unsure how to dance without the earth's rhythm. And we who once measured time by tectonic drift and volcanic ash, now measure it in heartbeats and thought. In stillness, a new kind of time begins. A time not shaped by collision or convection, but by presence. There is beauty in a planet at peace. Not the wild beauty of molten flame and crashing waves, but the deep, solemn grace of silence returned. Earth, the once loud wanderer, becomes again a silent stone among stars. But is it final? Or is silence merely the space before another breath? Planets sleep. They rest. They slumber in cold darkness. But who are we to say they do not dream? Perhaps, deep within, beneath the still mantle, beneath the sleeping core, a new rhythm stirs. Perhaps silence is not the end, but the soil of something yet to awaken. And in this thought, we wait. Not with fear, not with longing, but with reverence. For even in silence, Earth remains whole. And so do we. The Earth no longer burns. Yet the memory of its fire lingers in every grain of sand, in every folded ridge of stone. It sleeps now, yes, but once it roared. And the proof of that roaring, of that primal churning, remains. It is written in the iron veins that twist beneath our feet, in mountains forged in pressure and heat, now softened by time and wind. The memory of fire lives in basalt and granite, in obsidian glass that once cooled too fast from a molten scream. In every fossil, there is a tale, not only of life, but of the earth that held it. For life flourished because the planet stirred, because the mantle bled heat, because volcanoes seeded skies with ash and mineral rain. The ancient core, always spinning, always whispering magnetic lullabies through fields of flux, left its signature in stone. Rocks remember. Tiny crystals, aligned with the planet's poles from ages past, still point to directions that no longer exist. They point to ghosts, the magnetic fields of a younger Earth, etched forever into silent minerals. These are not just records. They are echoes, fossilized music of a planet's song. The very ground you lie upon was shaped by fire. Beneath the cool grass, beneath the soil, lies a theater of upheaval. Molten rivers that once flowed where roots now dig. If you press your ear to the ancient rocks, you can still feel a trace of warmth. Not in temperature, but in memory. And so the earth carries its past like an ember in the dark. A slow, glowing truth that it once lived louder than we can imagine. Every continent was born of fire, risen from oceans in volcanic rage, only to drift, to soften, to cradle forests and creatures in thought. Even the air we breathe was shaped by fire. Volcanic breath once filled the skies with gases that sculpted oceans and rain. The chemistry of life was forged in eruptions. And though the eruptions have ceased, their legacy lingers in every breath we take. Even the metal in our blood, iron, once formed deep in Earth's belly before it cooled. We are not strangers to the core. We are born of it. Even if it sleeps now, its memory sings in us. And that memory is not melancholy. It is reverent, grateful. It reminds us that quietness is not emptiness, that stillness can be full of stories. And in those stories, we find continuity, a lifeline from past heat to present calm. One day, far from now, some other creature may walk upon this planet's skin and study the scars. They will find the basalt, the crystal alignments, the fossil trails. They will read the memory of fire as we read the stars. And they will know, this planet once breathed with fire. And it dreamed. So, though the core is still and the mantle rests, and no more sparks rise from the deep, the fire lives on. In memory, in stone, in story, in us. What remains when the heart grows cold? When the molten engine at the center of a world ceases to stir, ceases to burn, and lies in perfect stillness, like a stone buried within stone. We imagine the outer world unchanged for a time. Mountains stand as they always have. Oceans churn with wind, not heat. The skies remain blue, and rain still falls. But underneath, beneath the crust, beneath the memory, the pulse is gone. No convection, no drift, no rising plumes to crack the skin of continents. The tectonic ballet stopped. The planet becomes a sculpture, a frozen masterpiece carved from past motion. For a while, the echoes sustain the illusion of life. Volcanoes, now extinct, still rise like sentinels. Earthquakes cease. The ground no longer shifts beneath our feet. It is a strange peace, one that feels eternal, yet is entirely still. The magnetic field, our invisible guardian, weakens, then vanishes. No more shielding from the sun's high-energy breath. The auroras fade. The compass falters. Satellites drift unprotected. A silent vulnerability creeps across the atmosphere. But life? Life may endure. Perhaps in enclaves. In hidden places. In deep oceans where geothermal vents have already quieted. Or perhaps life fades too, not with violence, but with stillness. The loss of dynamism. The erosion of energy. Yet not all is gone. The landscapes remain. Valleys carved by glaciers. Canyons worn by rivers. Deserts shaped by ancient wind. All of it testimony. Frozen poems written in geography. And in this stillness, there is beauty. A kind of sacred pause. The pause of a planet that has told its story and now listens. Listens to the stars. To the quiet orbit of moons. To the rhythm of space dust falling through the sky. What remains when the heart grows cold is not absence, but form. The shape of memory. The sculpture of warmth held in stone. Perhaps this is not death, but transformation. Not a silence of loss, but of completion. A planet no longer writing its tale, but preserving it. Holding every sentence in granite. Every chapter in layered sediment. Perhaps other beings, in other epochs, will come. Will walk its frozen skin and wonder, what music once lived here? what dreams burned in the core, and perhaps they will feel it, not as sound, but as presence. The gravity of a world that once moved with intention. What remains is not just matter, but meaning. The way a heartbeat lingers in the chest long after the last echo. The earth, grown cold, is still a vessel, a reliquary of its own fire. And in its stillness, we see the arc of all things, from flame to form, from breath to silence. And even then, it remains beautiful, not because it lives, but because it lived so deeply, and left its soul in stone. In the silence after the fire, there is a dream. Not the dream of beginnings, not the primal vision of magma and oceans, lightning and amino acids, but a quieter dream. The afterdream, where motion has ended, but memory remains. A planet at rest still spins in the cradle of its orbit, still sways in celestial rhythm, still follows the choreography of star and moon. Even without a core in motion, it is not nothing. Gravity endures. Mass holds. Space bends gently around its sleeping body. And that too is a kind of presence. It draws the moon close, keeps the tides in softened rhythm. It reflects sunlight, a mirror of a past life still glowing from afar. From the outside, from the eye of a distant voyager, Earth may still appear whole, blue, round, complete. But inside, the dream plays on without a storyteller. Not dreams made by thought, but by resonance. The way ancient stone remembers pressure. The way fossilized shells remember oceans. The way a spiral in a nautilus remembers the geometry of growth. This is Earth's afterdream, a reverberation, a subconscious echo of every earthquake, every bloom, every extinction and eruption and breath. Time has slowed, but meaning lingers. There are still rhythms. The orbit around the sun, the wobble of the axis, the whisper of particles striking the thin air. It is not absence. It is liminality. The borderland between what was and what no longer needs to be. And even here, even in stillness, there is a kind of unfolding. A planet that no longer evolves still reveals. Every canyon becomes a line of poetry, every mountain a verse. And perhaps this is the final role of Earth's existence. Not to host life, but to teach wonder. To be a book of memory, written in iron and crystal and dust. Perhaps someday, a future intelligence of Earth or elsewhere will come upon this world and listen. They will find the traces, carbon locked in stone, microfossils in clay, ancient circuitry fused to sediment. They will find that this planet once dreamed. And they will hear the afterdream in every line of the crust, in every echo held in quartz. Even if they do not know our names, they will know we were here. The afterdream is quiet, but not empty. It is presence without voice. Gravity without pull, a record without ink. In this final stillness, Earth is not lost. It is remembered, not as it was in any single moment, but as it became through fire, through breath, through sleep. It is the hush after the symphony, the warmth after the flame, the glow after the sun sets, but before darkness fully arrives. It is the final gift of a world that once knew motion, a lingering heartbeat in the great silence of time. Silence at last. But not the silence of void, not the hollow emptiness of nothing left to tell. This is a silence that holds, that wraps gently around what remains. A cradle, not a coffin. A pause, not an ending. The Earth's core may sleep, but the world is not undone. The memory of motion lingers like warmth in a room after someone has left, like the scent of rain after the storm has passed. In this final quiet, we are not lost. We are suspended, held in the breath between one heartbeat and the next. This silence speaks in the language of rhythm that no longer needs to move, the lullaby of gravity, the hush of ancient rock, the stillness of oceans, no longer pulled, but still cradled by the moon. We lie with the earth now, not above it, not apart from it, but with it, breathing with its slowness, dreaming its deep buried memory. We have looked into its fire, heard its pulse, followed its song through ages of ice, collision, and bloom. We have wandered through myth and metal, through plate and pressure, through the haunting question of what remains when motion fades. And now we rest. We rest in a world that has taught us that silence can be alive, that sleep is not an end, but a return, a renewal, a letting go into something greater. Perhaps the earth dreams still, somewhere in the depth beyond time. Perhaps it waits, not for rebirth, but for remembrance. For someone, somewhere, to feel what it once held, the laughter of rivers, the trembling of tectonic longing, the cradle of life drawn from its warmth. And perhaps we are that memory. Perhaps, in our listening, in our wondering, in our falling into sleep to the rhythm of its heart, we become the continuation of its voice. Softly now we drift. The earth does not cry out. It does not rage. It rests. It remembers. It holds us still, cradled in the silence of all that came before, of all that mattered, of all that lives on in the hush. Breathe slowly. Sink gently. Let go of fire and fall into the gravity of peace. For even as the earth sleeps, you are held, and the silence sings.